Hi guys, this is Clarence from the Asian Tech Guy. Today I'm gonna do another flipping PC challenge, whereby I try to make this build possibly under, 250 or 200 bucks and sell it for 300 to 400 bucks. Need profit. I found this guy from a local marketplace called Corsair. He's selling a i7 3770 system complete with monitor, keyboard and mouse. I don't know what brands they are, and there's 8 gigs of RAM as well. And other components, I'm really not sure, so it's a gamble. But for 130 bucks, I don't think it can go wrong. The only thing is that it's a bit far from my place. I gotta take cab back and forth, so gotta account for that. And alright, here goes. We're here now, trying to find a place. We're in Geylang, where it's a kind of a red light district, but there's a lot of eating places here at night. And well, this place is not too shady, so it's fine by me. But I really don't know where is 66. It seems like my taxi uncle just took me for a ride here. He told me this is 60, but this is like 10. So I don't know what the fuck, where the fuck he brought me to. I gotta check the map. Seems to be on the right track now. Seems to be increasing in value as I walk towards this side. But we'll see. The guy is not responding to my call, or rather I cannot. His phone constantly seems engaged for some reason. I hope he's just not ducking me. Nice. This is very tough. I'm gonna make it very pointed. Okay, I'm texting the guy. This is definitely not a good feeling, man. I just didn't. Okay. Looking for meeting someone here, but now don't see him. Oh, no. Not here. Oh, I call you, never. No more.
I don't know.
Oh.
How I don't know.
Here. I can come inside. The shoe can. Okay. Oh, sorry. I can check, is it?
Yeah.
Just this one, or just check this one.
Or you can check your mind.
Oh.
I power ready.
Oh, cannot. I just power first. I think you check your account, can see. So it turned out fine. I think I scored a deal here. It actually has 2 TB hard disks. There's no GPUs, but that is to be expected of this. There could be one low profile one right at the bottom. I'll check that out later to be sure when I get home. And everything seems looking fine. There's even an 850 watt 80 plus bronze PSU, which is really surprising. So apparently this guy wants to get rid of this because it's too huge. He wants to get a laptop instead. I'm sorry for the poor audio. We're still in this COVID times. I'm wearing this stupid mask. And now I'm in the rain, waiting right here to hail a taxi. I hope it's correct. So now we're right here, back at the set. So just a quick intro of this channel, Asian Tech Guy. As the name states, I'll be focusing on tech, mainly computers and perhaps reviews and unboxing of certain products that I find interesting. And of course, I like the mainstream brands like Asus, Gigabyte, ASRock, and so on. But I really want to focus on the more unknown brands from China specifically and other parts in Asia. For example, Snowman, iGo, I'm very interested in them. And Tech City has also reviewed a few Snowman coolers. In fact, I've actually bought some Snowman fans as well. It's working fine for me. And things like the GT thermal paste, I've used it a couple of times and the thermals are totally fine. Of course, I'm not sure that there's longevity there, but it's very cheap. If it's getting low performance and bad thermals, you can always reapply them, but I don't believe it's that bad. So I'll share a few tips and tricks that I have and like budget stuff that I can get around the Asia region that actually work pretty well, because basically they're made from the same factories, just that they're rebranded under different brands. So not to worry there. I will do the testing for you and let you know if it works out fine before you go hit the buy it for yourself. I have this, I know it's a bit of a clickbait, somewhat of a potato PC. It's an i7-3770. I got it from the Indian guy right there from his home. A really humble guy that in fact even added me on Facebook. So I really appreciate his friendliness and his kindness as well. So I understand that he didn't really come from a well-to-do background in terms of his work, and his living condition is pretty bad. He wasn't even sleeping on a mattress, just some kind of ply or softboard on a bed frame. And he didn't have much space for this desktop, and he needs the money to get a laptop. So that, of course, I didn't bother to bargain. I just gave him the full price he's asking for, $130. It's actually a steal for me. In this system, as I mentioned, it has like, of course, the CPU, the motherboard. I'm not sure what it is. We open up and I can tell. There's in fact 2 x 2 TB hard drive. They are WD green and there's no graphics card. If not wrong, there's 8 GB of RAM. I will confirm that again. It should be fine. And what we're going to do here is that I actually ordered a few graphics cards. And what I'm going to use to pair with this PC is going to be a RX 470. It should be plenty good enough. I am probably thinking it'll be doing something like 1080p low to medium, and depending on the title as well. I got to do some tests to be sure, but it should be good to price it real affordable for the guys that want to game at this kind of price point, probably about $200 to $300. And yeah, so now we're going to give this a good dusting, remove all the components, and get them wiped down. So from there, I'll definitely transfer this to a nicer case where it looks more gamer-like. Nowadays, you need a lot of RGB to sell stuff. Well, some people say RGB enhances performance. So we'll see what we can have. I believe good pictures and good looking cases and builds will attract people for sure. And without further ado, let's go ahead. So we'll take the panels off first and have a quick look at what the motherboard is. I actually looked at it before a while ago, but honestly I've forgotten how it looks like and what model it is. Okay, there you go. It's actually not a breadboard, it actually supports overclocking. Let's go a bit nearer. So this guy is a MSI Z77 motherboard. It's a micro ATX form factor. And yeah, those are the two TB WD green drives right there. And of course the Intel stock cooler. And right here, that's the RAM sticks. Let me get it out. Alright, Rip Jaws by G-Skill. Right, so this is a 8GB kit, 4GB x 2 at 1600 MHz CL9. This is a pretty like a standard affair right there. So there's a really suspect PSU in here. It's 80 plus bronze, but it's a brand I've never heard before, Seventeam. And apparently it's 850 watt, so I'm not gonna change that PSU here. I'm gonna trust that it works since it books well, and it should support full-fledged graphics card like the RX 470, or perhaps I may even put in the GTX 970 as well. We'll see. Alright, so now let's go ahead outside, tear down everything, and give this a quick blowing. I've taken out both side covers as well, so it's gonna be a lot of clearance for me to do my, blowing with this guy right here. without further ado, let's go ahead. So now we run ahead to strip all the components and give them another blowing again and then wipe down if need be. And then we dry them and we put them together with the graphics card and we should be good to go there for testing. That's it, dusting done. It looks really well maintained. I don't think it requires much wiping, if any. I probably skip that. So guys, I said I wanted to get a budget graphics card. Well, I did get budget alright, but I got host as well. This guy right here is the RX 470 that I got from Carousel. It's only for 50 bucks. I thought I got it for a steal. Later did I realize when I came to the output ports, look at this. There's only DVI. Alright, look at that. There's only one DVI port. I feel like something is fishy. And upon closer inspection, if you look at the card right here, there's a label. It says mining RX 470. So this card is meant for mining. But it's fine. I thought to myself, it's fine. I'll see whether it works from DVI. And yeah, it gives me an output, but however when I tried to run Unity Heaven, everything just went blank. Then I went to the hardware info. I realized that this got flashed with RX 570. I actually have some experience in flashing this graphics card before, so I tried to flash it myself, but somehow it just didn't work out. And I ended up spending a couple of hours doing it. I thought to myself that isn't worth my time. I tried to get a refund from the guy to return it due to his misrepresentation, but you know, he's kind of ignoring me at this point. And I think that I'm gonna write this off. So guys, if you buy a card off the second-hand market, always make sure that first, if it's mined, make sure that it's flashed back to its original BIOS. And you know, of course, ask what card you're getting. Preferably if you use it for gaming, don't get a mining version because it's more optimized for, or rather, earnings per wattage and kind of thing. I'm not sure what to tell you because I'm not that well versed in Bitcoin mining or coin mining in general. As it turns out, I decided to get a GTX 970 instead. So this should give me better performance in gaming. And it looks like this right here. Zotac 970 4GB. It shouldn't be bottlenecked by the i7 3770, at least from my research. I've cleaned up real good, so it looks real clean right here. And I got a 500GB hard disk as well for 10 bucks off the used market. And I've already pre-installed the SSD. It's a Hedriady 256GB SSD. I've used it before. It's from China. It's pretty good. I got it for about $33 for 256GB, which is pretty decent. For the chassis, I got a really cheap chassis here, but it looks pretty good. It's from this company called Evesky. It's the Fast and Furious 5. So this guy cost me 20 bucks. Pretty decent. It's a front tempered glass panel. The side is clear, but sadly it's just some acrylic. And overall, the case feels pretty cheap. It's really light, but for the price, you really can't complain, and it really looks decent. So I've already pre-installed like 4 RGB LED fans because the motherboard don't really have enough ports, and you know, there's no RGB sync anyway. So I got 4 RGB LED fans installed right in here. Snowman RGB LED fans. So the 4 fans cost me about $16. It's $4 each. Have them lying around, so I decided to just put it into this case for some bling bling there, because RGB gives performance, or so people think. Alright, So I realized I forgot to do something. I haven't replaced the thermal paste on the CPU. So once I've done that, I can go into assembly and benchmarking. I hope I remember how to remove the Intel stock cooler. Damn. Ah, okay. Gotta remove this. Forgot. Pull this tabs off. Just like that. Alright, easy. As you can see, the thermal paste is actually all caked up. So it's definitely a good choice to replace it. Just gotta put some isopropyl rubbing alcohol right there. Let it sit for maybe 10 seconds or so before rubbing the shit out of it. Don't worry about this, dissolves real quick. So I'm not too worried about reapplying thermal paste really quickly after this. Now you just gotta apply some elbow grease. Easy, easy, easy. That, maybe shake off some of the excess. There you go. And we do the same to the CPU cooler. Remember, this is a budget build, guys, so there's no need for some fancy aftermarket cooler. And this is not even a K series CPU, so no overclocking as well. This should do just fine. Right, so the trusty old G900 thermal paste. Really recommended by Tech East City, and I kind of like it as well. I like the viscosity of it, and plus of course it's cheap. So we're gonna use the pea-size method right here. Just get a dollop. Just like that, enough. Let's drop the excess off. Next, just pop the cooler right in there. When the arrow is pointing the cooler like this, it's optimal for removal. And for ease of installation, you should point it away, so meaning turning this way. So I'm going to do it for all of them, and hopefully that will work. So I'll just spin this like so. Boom, boom, boom. Alternate sides, cross side, push it in. Yeah, that sounds like good. Alright, we're in. That's perfect. If you can get it up like this, means it's fine. Everything's all the way through. So those are the fans, 3 of them right here in front, and 1 for exhaust right here. And the SSD is a Hedriady 256GB SSD. This is real handy and it goes for real cheap. Based on my experience, it's really something, I wouldn't say unique, but reasonably priced and works really well. So that's why I'm continuing to use this guy right here. Next, we affix the motherboard. So once you have one screw in, you can leave it hanging there. So we go ahead and take off that side panel as well. So always have the fans face down, as that will promote like intake from the bottom. That's always better than putting it upright like this. You like try to suck in air from the case into the PSU, which doesn't make sense. Hot air rises, it's better to do it the other way. Furthermore, there's intake at the bottom as well. I missed my electric screwdriver. It kind of didn't wake up on me for some reason. It's spoiled. I ordered a new one, but it's not here yet, so I gotta suffice with this manual guy right here. So we're gonna try to start to plan for cable routing. First, the 24 pin. Go through somewhere here. It should be good. Out through here. So you just want to place the cables where you think you want to do it, and don't want to lock them down. Next, we're going to tackle the 4-pin CPU connector. there. As for the graphics card PCIe cables, if it goes this way, I think we should be good to route it through this hole right here. Yep, right there. Probably plug the hard disk drive in. The bay is somewhere at the bottom. It's a bit hard to get into. I kind of regret only doing it now. I think it's probably easier to do it with this chassis on the side. I just slide the hard disk in, see if the holes line up. I mean, I really wish with modular cables, those cables are a little in the way. But yeah, we're fine. You see, look at this. It lines up pretty well there. Just use whatever screws, it doesn't matter. Nobody can see them right here. As long as it secures the hard disk in place. I think what we should tackle now are the front panel connectors. Those usually are the ones that's worse. If you're not sure where to connect them to, you can always refer them to the manual. I'm actually looking at it through my phone. And we'll find the reset switch first. Goes to this too. Power switch. Guys, the plus and minus doesn't matter as long as they're both connected. Doesn't matter which way you go. Front panel audio. This is real straightforward. It lines up where it is. There's actually one part of it without any hole, so just line it up with the pin on the motherboard itself. Alright, just like that. And the USB 2.0 connector. USB 3.0, this is real easy to do. Then we go ahead to connect the rest of the power connectors. The 24 pin first. Alright, next we connect the SATA and power cable to the hard disk. Power cables to the hard disk looks like this. I'm sorry if I didn't get the correct technical term, but I know how it looks like. And SATA. So SATA cable comes from the power supply unit, as I was saying. And SATA cable, this one part connects to the hard disk or SSD. And the other part, it actually looks the same, it connects to the motherboard. So real straightforward. So we'll do the same to the SSD. Usually I'll try to use the SATA 1 and 2, 3, 4 in order, so I know where exactly they are. So this is the SSD. I'm going to put it in SATA 1. So the cable goes through here. Alright, right here. Can't really see it. No one can see it, not me either. So usually I think 1 is at the top, 2 is at the bottom. And glue out the second one through as well. Alright, so we plug the hard disk drive in the SATA 2 port first. And the SSD one right at the top. Alright, just like that. Last but not least, I think it's the graphics card. With that, we should be done. Graphics card easy. Usually the top one is the one with the fastest speed. So the one right here. This case is a chip case, so it's a punch out back panel. And then unscrew this guy. This guy is cover for the PCIe backplate. There's a lever right here, you just need to press it down, open it up, and you line this guy up right here. Make sure you line it up properly and press it all the way in. It should click into place. Alright, it's like satisfying click, should be good. And now we just gotta secure this graphics card into place. So put the back plate back on, the cover I mean. And of course our PCI power. This sheet is 6+2 pin. So you can just break off the 2 pins to the side, like right here, here, and here, and just use the 2 6 pins. We'll tidy those cables up at a later stage. Just want to make sure everything's working fine. We're gonna do this in dual channel. Usually it's the one you don't use the stock closest towards the CPU. So usually it's this second and fourth slot, the ones in black. I mean, it happens to be black in this motherboard. Other motherboards may not have any color coding. Same thing, you just put it into the notch, align it, and just press it down till it clicks. Alright. Okay. There you go. All done. I know it's ketchup and mustard, but it's cheap, so it can't complain too much. And we still have the fans to connect up. Luckily these guys are easy, they're just Molex fans, so it just connects straight to PSU. So these fans have a unique capability. You can daisy chain them up together using the Molex connectors here. And you just gotta plug the end from the PSU right in. Molex fans are like, I wouldn't call it static pressure, but they're single speed because you can't adjust the speed as well. But for this kind of, like I said, with this cheap budget build, you can't expect too much. So that's what I'm gonna go with that. I think we're kind of done. We just do a final check of the PC. All the connectors are there, looking good right there with all the colors. I think we should be good to boot. So I'm gonna make sure that it works good under all the benchmarking that I'm gonna do. And also some games, and it'll work well for at least half to 1 hour. So I don't want to like tidy everything up and then find that I need to change something. That's gonna be real annoying. So only after all the testing, then I will do the cable management. Now's the moment of truth. We'll turn it on and see whether it works. Alright, look at that spinny. Time to mash that delete button. Really hopeful for this. Alright, we've got it to boot. It was kind of stupid of me. So let's see what we have here. So it detects the CPU property right here. Memory size 8192, that's perfect. Let's see our settings. At 1600 MHz, it's already fine. We don't need any XMP already. Let's see if the hard disks are all connected. So this is the 500 GB hard disk. I believe this UEFI Windows Mode Manager is the SSD because I kind of left an old OS installation in there. So we're gonna install Windows, and as I said, gonna try benchmarking and see if everything works fine. So I did already check out whether everything is working fine by doing some stress tests. I'm testing out the GPU using Udine Heaven at 1080p high, and the new Cinebench R33 works really fine. It stresses the CPU for almost close to 100% for about 8 to 10 minutes, which is pretty good, and the thermals looks fine to me. So I'll just going to do all the cable management now and get everything neat and tidy. No hard and fast rule to this. You just try to bunch everything up nicely and use the included holes right there to guide all the cables and make sure that the chassis can be closed shut without the cables being in the way as well. So I'm just meshing these cables together, those that I don't need, and try to just zip tie them together. So I really like this thing. It comes real handy and you can reach in really tight spaces and cut up those cable ties. So now we mesh this guy in there. So I'm meshing those cables I don't need right behind the power supply unit. Which is fine, just above the hard disk. And we go ahead and tidy the rest of it. Yep, there's two guys here. We probably want to zip tie them down like that. This is the worst part of PC building to me. I'm not a very tidy person. Right, let's see how it looks like from front. I think that looks decent. The front is what matters. Behind you just gotta make it somewhat tidy and flat so the panel can close. Let's see. Should be fine here. I'll just snip everything off and we'll give it a shot. Okay, a good trick I like to use here. If somehow it's too tight, you can't get the chassis to close right here. So you gotta press down quite a bit. You see here there's still some gap. I can't bridge that gap. I like to put the chassis on its side, and then that way you can exert more force down, and while sliding it, should be able to get it across. So you put it flat like so. So you put the cover here, and you somehow mash it down until it fits. It should work, this trick of mine. It feels like brute force. It is brute force, alright, but it works. Alright, we're in. Takes a bit of finagling, but it's done. It's not the best way to do it, but it should work. The curved side panel, that it shouldn't encounter any problems. There you go, easy peasy. So we did some benchmarking using Eugene Heaven at 1080p high default settings. We got an average FPS of 106.2 and a minimum FPS of 28.1, maximum of 207. Right now we're gonna try to do some light overclocking using MSI Afterburner and see what improvements we can get. I managed to get a stable overclock of 200 MHz to the core clock and 500 MHz to the memory clock. And how I go about doing this is that first I go to the settings, right here. I enable all the unlock voltage control and so on and so forth. And to give the the card more room to play around with, of course you want to have adequate cooling. So I enabled the user-defined fan control. I made it a very aggressive fan curve just like that. Then I went ahead to crank up the core voltage and the power limit, and the rest you just play around until you get something stable, and you can use it. Let's run the benchmarks and take a look at the final numbers. So we managed to crank out another about 5 FPS on the average. Our minimum FPS stayed around the same, and same for the maximum FPS. So that's quite a huge jump. I mean, from the original numbers, we improved almost 20 FPS from the stock configuration on the average, and that's actually a lot. It's about 20% in total, which is free performance out of nothing. But of course, you get a noisier GPU. That's to be expected. Anyway, if you're gaming and your GPU goes all the way to 100% usage, you'll have high fan speeds anyway, depending on the brand of graphics cards you're having. So that doesn't really matter too much to me. I'm sure to the rest as well. So I put this conversion in place for anyone that wants to get the enhanced performance. They can always click on the Afterburner and just apply the settings, and they're good to go there. Alright, so the first title we're going to be benchmarking is Shadow of Tomb Raider. This AAA title for about 1 or 2 years ago. It's really heavy on graphics, mainly because of the textures and lighting, I believe. And I'll be really happy if I can hit about 60 FPS on this one from medium to low settings. I'll be a bit ambitious and try high for now. And throughout all this tests, we'll be using the overclock settings, which I've showed you guys earlier in MSI Afterburner. So without further ado, let's go ahead. So first time's the charm. It seems we hit an average FPS of 60 there, and we are GPU bound 61% of the time, which is still fine. It means that we have a little bit of CPU bottleneck there, but not too much. Still acceptable in my books. So with that, I don't think we need to test no further with this title. 60 FPS on 1080p high in average. That's really something I didn't expect to be able to do. It's pretty insane. Literally, without that overclock on the GPU, I think we likely will hit about 50 FPS, I would say. And I'm really happy with the result of this. So now we'll move ahead to other games. So we are off to benchmarking Valorant now. This seems to be a relatively easy title to run, and I'm currently on 1080p medium. Seems to be able to hit 144 frames per second. I'm not sure what happens when we are in game, but I'm hopeful for that. And
this should enable high refresh rate gaming for Valorant, and if you want better settings, you can push towards the highs and get appreciate the better graphics there, and yet still have at least 60 FPS. Alright, so at 1080p medium settings, we're averaging at a frame rate of 178, minimum of 100 and a maximum of 230, and 1% low of 86 FPS with a drop of 1% low of 3 FPS. That's actually pretty decent. I want to see what we can do when we push towards 1080p high. As you can see, we have dialed the settings to all high, turn on VNet, and we also turn on anti-aliasing at MSA 2 times with improved clarity on and beta experiment sharpening. So everything's pushed to the highest as it can go. I just want to see what kind of performance you can get with these settings. Alright, let's see the numbers. At all high settings with everything dialed up to the maximum, we're averaging at 156 FPS with minimum of 95 FPS, maximum of 228, 1% low of 64, and a 0.1% low of 3 FPS. That's pretty amazing, and it goes to show that Valorant is really well optimized and easy to run, and this potato turned budget gaming PC can run this really well, especially for Valorant. So next up, we're gonna test out Warzone, a title that's, I wouldn't say newer, but it should be tougher to run than Valorant. So let's go ahead. So strategy for Warzone. First, we're gonna try to push all the textures and graphics settings to high, target 60 FPS, and see what we can do to tweak to somehow achieve high refresh rate gaming about 144 Hz. Right, I know it'll look or rather sound a bit loud because we're actually full blasting this GPU right here. So I've already done a quick test. It works fine. We're on 1080p render resolution at 100%, and we set texture resolution to low. I tried to put it higher, but it's going to the max, or rather above the maximum recommended of my graphics card VRAM, so I don't want to do that. Then the other things I was just enabled to high or enable as required or as much as the VRAM allows me to. So right now we are at 100% render resolution, but to achieve high refresh rate gaming, we probably want to take this to 80% or 70% and reduce some of the shadows and whatnot and all that. So we go ahead first with this kind of settings. We just play a practice game, it doesn't matter, it uses the same amount of graphical processing power. We start the benchmarking where the gameplay officially starts, because there is where it matters. For the cinematics, it doesn't matter that much. So I'll start the benchmark right here. Alright, so we have an average frame rate of 77 FPS, minimum of 58, maximum of 106, 1% low of 55, and 0.1% low of 43. That's really respectable. So now let's aim for the high refresh rate gaming here. Alright, so I've already took down all the settings. I disabled everything as best as I can. And I've also, changed the render resolution to 66%, which is the minimum. It looks a bit shitty, but that's what you're gonna get if you want to push the refresh rates. We see what we can have, and this is about as best as we can get already. It's pretty insane for this, potato PC turning into this budget gaming PC with just like 4 gigs of VRAM and 8 gigs of system memory. It goes to show that you don't need very high system specs to play decent games at decent frame rates. I would say at 1080p it's not too hard to drive. Alright, so we're getting average frame rate of 111 FPS, minimum of 87, maximum of 150, or rather 148, 1% low of 77, and 0.1% low of 59. So this is what numbers you're gonna get if you're trying to push the high FPS to the limits of this system. Alright, so I'm really pleased with this system for the price. I will have the parts list in the description box below. For this price, around $240, it really delivers true used price performance here, and it's really value for money. And of course, it's because of the deals that I got that's so good. That's why it's at this kind of price. Otherwise, I would say you can probably get about $300, which is very affordable for most people. If let's say you're a student or something, I would strongly recommend you to get an old i7, pop in an SSD, pop in a graphics card, at least a GT 970 or 1060 or RX 570, and should be good to go there. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you like such content, do feel free to subscribe to my channel, Asian Tech Guy, where I'll be touching more on PC building, unboxing tech stuff, and of course introducing a lot of more unknown Asian tech stuff to the world. And hope to see you guys in the next one.